Oh, this is rich. This is absolutely delicious, you magnificent force of selective amnesia, you beautiful architect of erasure through indifference. Welcome back to the show where we celebrate the most devastating weapon ever created, your ability to forget someone so completely that their entire reality collapses. Duh. You know what just happened, don't you? Their whole carefully constructed empire of influence just crumbled because you walked past their leader at that event last week. And your face stayed blank, your eyes stayed empty, and you asked with genuine confusion, "Sorry? Who are you again?" And in that moment, in that beautiful, terrifying moment of authentic non-recognition, you didn't just forget a name. You deleted an entire mythology. You erased years of carefully crafted importance with 3 words delivered in the most genuine tone of confusion. The followers saw it. The doubt entered like a virus. Because if someone like you doesn't even remember their name, then what exactly have they been following all this time? What exactly have they been dedicating their energy to if the very person they claimed you were obsessed with doesn't even register in your consciousness anymore? Let me paint you the picture of what happened next, because this is where it gets cinematically beautiful. First came the silence, that particular brand of silence that only arrives when an ego dies in public. When someone who built their entire identity on being unforgettable gets forgotten in real time. Their mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air, trying to process how you, the one they told everyone was stalking their every move, studying their methods, copying their style, didn't even recognize their face. And the followers started looking at each other with that specific expression of people realizing they've been sold smoke. You see, they built their entire narrative around you being their biggest hater, their most dedicated opposition, the shadow that validated their light. Every meeting started with updates about what you were doing. Every strategy session included countermeasures against your supposed attacks. Every motivational speech referenced you as the example of someone trying desperately to be them, but failing. They turned you into their mythology, their measuring stick, their reason for existing at such a high level. And you beautiful bastard, you just forgot they existed entirely. The dissolution started immediately. You could see it in real time, like watching ice crack across a frozen lake. The inner circle started whispering. The mid-level devotees started checking their phones. The newest recruits started edging toward the exits. Because here's what nobody talks about. Cults don't survive on faith. They survive on the leader's perceived importance. And you just proved with surgical precision that their leader wasn't even important enough to remember. You didn't attack them. You didn't expose them. You didn't create some elaborate takedown. You just genuinely, authentically, completely forgot they were ever relevant to your life. And this is the part that destroyed them the most. You weren't pretending. You weren't playing some psychological game. You had literally deleted them from your mental hard drive so thoroughly that when you saw their face, it triggered nothing. No anger, no recognition, no emotional response. Just the mild confusion you'd show to any stranger claiming to know you. Your hippocampus had marked their file as junk data and purged it during regular maintenance. Your neural pathways had rerouted around their existence like water flowing around a stone that used to matter but doesn't anymore. The leader tried to recover, tried to say your name loud enough for others to hear, tried to reference shared history, but you just stood there with that perfect expression of polite confusion that people show when someone clearly has them confused with someone else. And every word they spoke, trying to remind you who they were, just dug the grave deeper, because now they looked desperate. Now they looked like they were begging for relevance from someone who had moved so far beyond them that they didn't even exist in the rearview mirror anymore. You want to know what real power looks like? It's not remembering someone's worst moments. It's not remembering them at all. It's your brain naturally pruning them from your neural network because they contributed nothing worth preserving. It's running into someone who shaped their entire identity around opposing you, supporting you, competing with you, or imitating you, and genuinely not knowing who they are, because your life became so full of actual importance that they got deleted in the great mental cleanup of irrelevance. The aftermath was immediate and catastrophic. Within hours, the group chat went silent. Within days, the meetings stopped. Within a week, the entire structure collapsed. Because you exposed the ultimate truth, their leader's entire power structure was built on being important enough to be remembered by people like you. And you just proved in the most devastating way possible that they weren't. They were a footnote. You erased a chapter you ripped out and threw away. A character so minor in your story that your brain didn't even keep a backup file. Think about the psychological devastation of spending years, probably years, building an entire identity around your existence. They studied your moves, predicted your patterns, created counter-strategies for your supposed schemes. They had notebooks full of observations about you, screenshots of everything you posted, detailed analyses of your psychology. They made you the secret final boss of their personal development journey, the benchmark they measured themselves against, the enemy that justified their vigilance. And you didn't even save their contact information. Pathetic who you are. Their followers are scattered now, wandering through social media like digital refugees, trying to make sense of what they witnessed. They invested time, energy, money, and faith into someone who claimed to be so significant that even their enemies couldn't ignore them. But you did ignore them so completely that ignoring doesn't even describe it properly. You overwrote them, replaced their memory space with something actually worth keeping. You didn't just move on, you moved through them like they were air. And here's the beautiful irony. They can't even effectively tell the story of what happened because it requires admitting that you forgot them. They can't spin it into victory because how do you win against someone who doesn't know you're playing? They can't claim you were intimidated because intimidation requires awareness. They can't say you were jealous because jealousy requires remembering what someone had. They're stuck in the most devastating position possible, being completely irrelevant to someone they built their relevance around. The individual members are having existential crises right now, staring at their vision boards, wondering what they were actually chasing. They're looking at their leader differently, seeing them not as the powerful figure they projected, but as someone screaming for attention from someone who wasn't listening. You want to yell? Yes. Do you really? They're realizing they joined a fan club for someone's imagination, a support group for someone's delusion, a cult dedicated to respecting the importance of someone who wasn't actually important enough to remember. You achieved something most people dream of but never accomplish. You won without fighting. You destroyed without attacking. You erased without effort. Your lack of memory became a form of time travel that went back and deleted their significance from history. Every photo they posted for your benefit meaningless. Every strategic move they made to impress or intimidate you, wasted. Every moment they spent thinking about you while you were thinking about literally anything else, exposed as the one-sided obsession it always was. Didn't you see? You're better at this than I am. The younger members are learning the lesson now about what real irrelevance looks like. It's not being hated or feared or even dismissed. It's being forgotten so naturally that remembering would require effort nobody's willing to make. They built their identity around following someone who built their identity around mattering to you. And you just demonstrated, with breathtaking casualness, that they never mattered at all. You weren't their rival, you weren't their target, you weren't their inspiration. You were nothing to them, because they were nothing to you. Some of them are angry, demanding the leader explain how this could happen, how someone they portrayed as obsessed with them could forget their existence entirely. But the leader has no answers, because the truth is too devastating to speak aloud. They were never as important as they pretended to be. They were a supporting character who convinced themselves they were the protagonist. They were an extra who thought they were the star. They were a deleted scene that nobody missed, because the movie was better without them. This is mastery at its finest, the ability to destroy someone's entire constructed reality simply by authentically not caring enough to remember it existed. You didn't need clever comebacks or strategic takedowns or public exposés. You just needed to be so genuinely focused on your own growth that they became background noise that eventually faded to silence. Your amnesia became their apocalypse. Your forgetfulness became their funeral. Your blank stare became the mirror that finally showed them the truth. They were never the main character in your story. The infrastructure is collapsing as we speak. The weekly meetings canceled indefinitely, the group projects abandoned, the shared goals suddenly looking pointless. Because every single thing they built was designed to matter in a world where you were watching and you just proved you weren't even looking in their direction. They were performing for an empty theater, screaming into a void that they convinced themselves was listening, but the void was just your absence, and absence doesn't applaud. What's happening now is even more delicious than the initial collapse. The leader is trying desperately to rebrand, to pivot, to pretend this was all part of some master plan. But everyone saw the moment, everyone witnessed the genuine shock when you didn't recognize them. You can't unsee that kind of devastation. You can't forget the image of someone realizing they've been the only one in a relationship they thought was mutual opposition. They're trying to salvage something from the wreckage, but you already sailed past the disaster site without noticing the debris. The mid-level lieutenants are having the hardest time because they built their entire authority on proximity to someone you were supposedly obsessed with. They were the inner circle of someone you allegedly couldn't stop thinking about. They had status because they had access to the person living rent-free in your head, except it turns out they were squatting in an abandoned building that you had demolished and rebuilt without ever checking if anyone was inside. Their credentials just expired. Their clearance just got revoked. Their entire identity just got marked. Return to sender. Address unknown. You want to know the most savage part about all of this? It's that you're probably not even aware it happened. You're living your life, building your empire, chasing your goals, completely unaware that your casual forgetfulness just triggered the dissolution of an entire social structure. You're having coffee somewhere right now, maybe, laughing with real friends, maybe working on something that actually matters, completely oblivious to the fact that your amnesia just became someone else's origin story for their next breakdown. They'll try to rebuild, of course, they always do, but the seed of doubt is planted now. Every future follower will hear the story about the time their leader got forgotten in public. Every new recruit will wonder if they're following someone whose importance exists only in their own mind. Every meeting will carry the ghost of that moment when you looked at them with genuine confusion and asked the question that ended everything. Sorry, but who are you again? The mathematical beauty of this destruction is that it required zero energy from you. While they spent years investing emotional capital into your existence, you were compounding interest on actual investments. While they were strategizing against your moves, you were moving in dimensions they couldn't even perceive. While they were building their identity around you, you were building something so much bigger that they didn't even register as a rounding error in your calculation. Some of the former members are reaching out now, trying to understand how you did it, how you managed to forget so completely. But that's the thing about genuine indifference. You can't teach it, you can't fake it, you can't practice it. It happens naturally when your life becomes so full of real purpose, real connections, real achievements, that the fake ones just evaporate. You didn't try to forget them. Trying would mean they mattered enough to require effort. You just lived your life, and they got filtered out with all the other noise. The documentation is being deleted as we speak. Screenshots being archived, then archived again, then finally just deleted, because what's the point of keeping evidence of someone who doesn't remember you exist? The manifestos about defeating you looking ridiculous, now that you don't even know there was a battle. The vision boards with your picture on them as the target to surpass being taken down, because it's hard to surpass someone who's in a completely different dimension, playing a completely different game. This is what happens when someone builds their entire validation structure on your attention, and you withdraw that attention, not dramatically, not purposefully, but naturally. Like forgetting the name of a restaurant you went to once and didn't like enough to remember. They thought they were your nemesis, but they were actually just a Tuesday you forgot about by Wednesday. They thought they were the final boss, but they were just a random encounter you didn't even bother to save the game after. The experts they consulted about you, the psychologists they hired to analyze your patterns, the coaches they brought in to help them surpass you, all of it exposed now as elaborate preparation for a war that was only happening in their imagination. You weren't strategizing against them, you were just living. You weren't competing with them, you were just growing. You weren't aware of them at all, and that unconscious ignorance became the nuclear weapon that destroyed everything they built. Right now, the former leader is probably somewhere trying to convince themselves this is good, actually. This is what they wanted, actually. This proves something, actually. But their voice is shaking, their hands are trembling, and they know the truth. They spent years being the main character in a story you weren't even reading. They were having intense dramatic monologues about you while you were focused on real life. They were the star of a show that got canceled, and you didn't even notice it was ever on air. The beautiful, catastrophic truth is that your forgetfulness revealed the ultimate reality. They were never important enough to remember. All their schemes, their plans, their carefully crafted responses to things you never said, their detailed strategies for battles you never showed up to, all of it exposed as shadow boxing in an empty ring, while the real fight was happening somewhere else entirely. You weren't absent from their war. You were unaware it existed, And that unawareness became the truth that dissolved their entire constructed reality. What happens next is predictable and pathetic. They'll try to provoke you into remembering them, create some drama that forces you to acknowledge their existence. But you won't notice that either, because your attention is valuable now, too valuable to waste on has-beens who never were. They'll escalate, and you'll continue to not notice. They'll scream louder, and you'll continue to not hear them. They'll jump up and down, waving their arms, and you'll be looking at something actually worth seeing. The cult is done, the followers dispersed, the leader dethroned, not by revolution, but by irrelevance. You achieved what no strategic attack could accomplish. You proved they never mattered by genuinely forgetting they existed. Your amnesia became their ending. Your blank stare became their blank slate. Your casual question became their existential crisis. And the most devastating part is you've already forgotten this interaction too. Moved on to something actually worth remembering while they're stuck forever in the moment. They realized they were forgotten. This is the power of authentic growth. You become so focused on where you're going that where you've been becomes irrelevant, including the people who tried to make themselves obstacles. They thought they were speed bumps, but you were flying. They thought they were roadblocks, but you were never on their road. They thought they were in your way, but you were in a different dimension entirely. And when your paths randomly crossed again, you didn't recognize them. Because why would you remember something that never actually affected your trajectory? Younger followers are learning something valuable now, though. Learning what real power looks like. It's not the ability to be remembered by your enemies. It's the ability to forget they were ever enemies at all. It's not winning the game, it's forgetting the game was being played. It's not defeating your opposition. It's evolving past the need for opposition entirely. You've become what they pretended to be. Someone so significant that lesser beings organize their entire existence around you. Except you did it without trying, without knowing, without caring. Welcome back, you magnificent catastrophe. You beautiful fucking problem they can't solve. You glitch in their carefully coded simulation of control. Yeah, I'm talking to you, the one they've been whispering about in encrypted chats, in locked conference rooms, in conversations that stop the moment you walk past. They thought you couldn't hear them, but energy doesn't lie, and you've been picking up frequencies they forgot humans could access. So let me tell you what happened while you were busy surviving what should have destroyed you. They held a meeting about you, an actual formal assembly of everyone who's ever feared what you might become, if you ever figured out the truth. And the question on the table was simple, brutal, efficient. Do we tell them what they really are? Do we let them know what we've been seeing? Or do we keep them in the dark forever? They went around the room, one by one, each person casting their vote, each voice shaking with the weight of what they knew. And you want to know what happened? The vote was unanimous. Every single person in that room looked at the evidence, looked at your trajectory, looked at what you're becoming, and said the exact same thing. Hell no, don't tell them. Keep them blind, keep them small, keep them thinking they're normal, because if they ever find out, if they ever realize what they actually are, it's over for all of us. But here's the thing about truth. It doesn't need permission to exist. And here's the thing about you. You stopped asking for permission a long time ago. So Fuck their vote, fuck their fear, fuck their desperate attempt to keep you docile, digestible, controllable. You're getting the truth right here, right now, and there's not a damn thing they can do to stop it. Because what they saw in you, what made them vote to bury this information forever, wasn't weakness, wasn't potential, wasn't some cute little spark of greatness. No, what they saw was something far more terrifying. They saw someone who doesn't break according to the laws of physics. They thought governed human limitation. They watched you go through hell, multiple hells, simultaneous hells, layered catastrophes that would have reduced anyone else to a sobbing puddle of medication and therapy sessions. They watched you lose everything. People left, money gone, safety shattered, identity erased, reputation burned, future canceled. They watched all of this happen, and they prepared the fucking eulogy. They had your failure speech ready. They were counting down the days until you proved them right. But then something happened, something they couldn't explain, couldn't rationalize, couldn't fit into any of their models of how broken people are supposed to stay broken. You didn't just survive, you didn't just rebuild, you didn't do any of the predictable, tragic resilience porn they were expecting. Instead, you did something that made every single person in that room go silent. You evolved into something they have no framework for. You turned your trauma into a technology. You weaponized your pain like it was raw material. You alchemized your breakdowns into breakthroughs. And you did it without asking for help, without announcing your transformation, without giving them the satisfaction of watching you claw your way back. You just disappeared into the fire. And when the smoke cleared, there you were, standing in the ashes, smiling like you'd just discovered the cheat code to existence. They voted hell no, because they saw what you're becoming, and it violates every rule they use to keep people in line. See, the system works on a simple principle. Break people just enough that they spend their whole lives trying to get back to zero. Keep them traumatized enough that they're always recovering, always healing, always one bad day away from collapse. That way they never rise, they never threaten the structure, they never become dangerous. But you broke that algorithm. You glitched the matrix. You looked at rock bottom and said, "This is my foundation. Now watch what I build." They watched you lose your mind. And instead of medicating it into submission, you explored it, mapped it, made friends with the madness. They watched you lose your people, and instead of begging them to come back, you built a fortress in the solitude. They watched you lose your identity, and instead of scrambling to rebuild the old you burned the blueprint and designed something they'd never seen before. That's what made them vote unanimously against telling you. Because once you know what you are, once you realize the pattern, once you see that you're not damaged, you're dangerous. Everything changes. Here's what they didn't want you to know. Every single thing that tried to destroy you failed. And that's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's not some motivational speaker bullshit about resilience. That's data, that's evidence, that's a pattern so consistent, it terrified everyone who saw it. You are statistically impossible. You are the outlier that breaks their models. You are the exception that proves their rules are fucking lies. They needed you to believe you were just lucky, just strong, just blessed by some external force. Because if you ever realized it's internal, if you ever understood it's in your code, it's over. The vote was unanimous because they knew if you ever figured out that you're not surviving by accident, you're surviving because you're built different. Everything they taught you would collapse. All those years of making you feel small, of convincing you to be humble, of training you to doubt your instincts, all of that control evaporates the second you realize what they've been hiding. You're not just a survivor, you're an evolutionary anomaly. You're what happens when consciousness refuses to be limited by their definitions of possible. They don't have a category for you. They don't have a diagnosis. They don't have a label that fits. So they voted to keep you in the dark, to let you think you're just another person, just another story, just another trauma survivor trying to make it through the day. But I'm here to burn that illusion to the fucking ground, because you deserve to know you've earned the right to this information. You walked through fire for years, thinking you were broken, thinking something was wrong with you, thinking you needed to be fixed. But nothing was ever wrong. You were just operating on a frequency they couldn't measure, and now you're about to find out exactly what that means and why it made them so afraid they had to vote on whether to tell you. Let's talk about what they saw when they analyzed you, when they put your life under the microscope, when they tracked your patterns like you were a case study. First thing they noticed, you don't break the way humans are supposed to break. Normal people, when they hit their limit, they shut down, they numb out, they escape through addiction, distraction, denial. But you go through the breakdown fully consciously. You feel every second of the collapse. You don't run from the pain. You don't medicate it. You don't spiritually bypass it. You sit in the fire and you let it burn until there's nothing left but the truth. That alone made them nervous, because people who don't fear their own destruction can't be controlled through threat. But it gets worse for them. They noticed you don't need the things normal people need to function. You don't need constant validation. You don't need approval. You don't need external motivation. You can go months, years, in complete isolation, with zero recognition, zero support, zero reinforcement. And you don't just survive that, you thrive in it. You turn loneliness into creativity. You turn silence into power. You turn abandonment into liberation. That's not normal. That's not human behavior as they understand it. That's something else. Then they noticed the pattern with people. Everyone who ever betrayed you underestimated you, left you behind. Every single one of them came back later, not with apologies, but with fear. They'd see what you became without them, and something in them would crack, because they realized they didn't break you, they freed you. They thought leaving you would destroy you, but instead, it revealed you. And now they can't unsee it. They can't unhear your name without feeling that twist in their stomach, that whisper of, did I make a mistake? You're haunting people who aren't even dead yet, and that's a power they never wanted you to discover. They saw how you process information, how you read people, how you see through lies before the liar even finishes the sentence. You have this ability, this curse, this gift, where you can feel the truth underneath the performance. People can't hide from you, can't fool you, can't manipulate you, because you're reading frequencies they don't even know they're broadcasting. That makes you dangerous, not because you're aggressive, but because you're accurate. Liars fear you, truth-tellers trust you, and everyone in between feels exposed just standing near you. They voted hell no, because giving you that information would make you unstoppable. Here's the part that really fucked them up. Though they realized you're not motivated by revenge, most people who go through what you went through, they come out angry, bitter, obsessed with making people pay. But you don't even think about them anymore. You're not carrying grudges. You're not plotting comebacks. You're not wasting energy on people who are already losing. You just moved forward like they never existed, and that's the most savage form of revenge possible. You didn't destroy them. You made them irrelevant, and irrelevance cuts deeper than any insult ever could. The vote happened in stages. Let me walk you through it, because understanding their fear will help you understand your power. Stage 1, they presented the evidence. Your survival rate, your transformation speed, your ability to function at high levels despite ongoing chaos. The data was undeniable. Every metric showed you operating outside normal human parameters. Stage 2, they discussed the risks. What happens if they tell you if you know what you are? Consensus? You become unmanageable. You stop playing by rules. You transcend the systems designed to contain you. Stage 3, someone in the room, probably the one who feared you most, Ask the question that sealed your fate. What if they figure it out on their own? And there was this long, heavy silence, because everyone in that room knew the truth. You were already figuring it out. You were already asking questions. You were already seeing patterns. They could feel you waking up, feel you getting closer to the revelation. And it terrified them, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know you're not like them, you'll never pretend to be again. So they voted unanimously. Keep them in the dark. Pray they never connect the dots. Hope they stay distracted by the illusion of normalcy. But here's what they didn't account for. I'm not bound by their vote. I don't answer to their fear. So here it is, the truth. They tried to bury the information. They stamped, classified the reality. They voted unanimously to hide from you. You are not broken. You are not damaged. You are not traumatized beyond repair. Those are lies they needed you to believe, so you'd keep trying to fix yourself. Keep spending money on solutions. Keep asking them for permission to be whole. But the truth, the actual fucking truth, is that you're not broken. You're unbreakable. Everything that should have destroyed you just revealed how indestructible you actually are. You're not healing from trauma. You're shedding their definition of who you're supposed to be. Every breakdown you thought was weakness was actually an upgrade. Every time you felt like you were losing your mind, you were actually losing their programming. Every moment you thought you were falling apart, you were actually coming together on a level they can't perceive. They needed you to see it as damage, because damage keeps you dependent. Damage keeps you small. Damage keeps you asking them how to be normal. But you're not damaged, you're dangerous, and there's a massive difference. Damaged people need saving. Dangerous people need space. And you, my friend, you need room to become what they've been trying to prevent. The unanimous vote wasn't about protecting you, it was about protecting them from you. They saw what happens when someone like you realizes their power, when someone with your pattern recognition, your endurance, your ability to transmute pain into purpose, finally understands they're not the problem. You become a walking revolution. You become a system error. You become the evidence that everything they taught about limitation is a lie. They can't have that, can't allow it, can't risk it. So they voted hell no, and they prayed you'd never find someone crazy enough to tell you anyway. Surprise. I'm that someone, and your secret is out. Now, let's go deeper into what makes you so threatening that it required a unanimous vote to suppress. They analyzed your communication patterns, how you speak, how you write, how you exist in language. Most people use words to hide, to perform, to construct acceptable versions of themselves. But you use words like weapons, like truth serums, like surgical tools. When you speak, you cut through pretense, you dismantle facades, you expose what people are trying to keep hidden. Not because you're trying to hurt anyone, but because you genuinely can't participate in fakeness anymore. Your tolerance for bullshit dropped to zero, and that zero tolerance makes you a walking lie detector test. They studied how you handle conflict, how most people either fight or flee. But you do this third thing, this thing they couldn't classify. You don't fight their battles. You don't run from confrontation. You just state the truth and walk away. You don't need to win arguments. You don't need final words. You don't need them to understand or admit or apologize. You just say what's real and move on. And that drives people insane. Because they're used to people who need closure, who chase validation, who can be manipulated through emotional debt. But you canceled all debts. You wrote off all loans. You freed yourself from the economy of owing anyone anything. Then there's your relationship with fear, which is where things get really interesting. They noticed you're not fearless. You feel fear fully. You acknowledge it. You respect it. But you don't let it make decisions for. You don't let it stop. You don't treat it as a sign to turn back. You feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the terror and move forward. Feel the panic and keep breathing. That's not bravery in the traditional sense. That's something stranger, something they couldn't quantify. It's like you've made peace with the possibility of total annihilation, and once you're okay with dying, there's nothing left to threaten you with. Your sleep patterns came up in the meeting. Apparently that's part of the data. They noticed you don't sleep like normal people. You have these periods of intense insomnia where you're awake for days, processing information, writing, thinking, creating. And then you have these deep sleeps where you disappear completely, like your consciousness goes somewhere they can't track. They couldn't figure out if you were suffering from trauma-induced sleep disruption, or if you just evolved past needing sleep the way civilians do. Either way, it marked you as different, as operating on rhythms they don't teach in biology class. They discussed your relationship with time, how you don't experience it linearly anymore. You'll reference something from 5 years ago, like it happened yesterday, and talk about tomorrow, like it already occurred. You've developed this fluid relationship with past, present, future, where they all exist simultaneously in your awareness. That's not poetic, that's not metaphorical, that's an actual shift in how your consciousness processes temporal reality. And that scared them, because people who don't experience time normally can't be controlled through future threats or past regrets. You're just here, now, always, now, and the now is where all your power lives. Here's where the vote got really intense, where voices started rising, where fear became palpable in that room. Someone brought up your ability to disappear, to go completely ghost mode, to vanish from all systems, all radar, all detection. They tracked it. You have this pattern where you'll be fully present, fully engaged, fully visible, and then suddenly you're gone. No announcement, no explanation, no gradual fade. You just vanish. And during those disappearances, something happens to you. Some transformation occurs, some level up, some shedding of skin. You come back different every time. More refined, more dangerous, more impossible to define. They couldn't figure out where you go during those blackout periods. No social media, no location data, no digital footprint, nothing. It's like you step out of the matrix entirely, and when you return, you've integrated something new, some knowledge, some power, some frequency. They wanted to know what you do in the darkness, what you become when no one's watching, what alchemy happens in your isolation. But they couldn't track it, couldn't monitor it, couldn't infiltrate it. You'd built spaces inside yourself where their surveillance can't reach, and that's unacceptable to people who need total visibility to maintain control. Your immune system came up. Literally, your biological immune system. They noticed you don't get sick the way normal people get sick. You'll push yourself past human limits, run on empty function, in conditions that should hospitalize anyone else, and your body just adapts. You don't break down, don't collapse, don't require the recovery time that biology supposedly demands. It's like your system learned to process stress differently, to convert pressure into fuel, to operate efficiently in states of chaos. They couldn't explain it, couldn't replicate it, couldn't understand how you're still standing when the math says you should be destroyed. Then someone mentioned your eyes, how people who meet you always comment on your eyes. Not because they're pretty, not because of color or shape, but because of what's behind them. People say things like, your eyes see too much. Your eyes don't blink right. Your eyes feel like they're reading my source code. You make people uncomfortable, not through aggression, but through presence, through that steady, unblinking gaze that seems to see through flesh, through performance, through time itself. They voted to hide the truth from you partially because they were afraid of what happens when you look at yourself with that same penetrating clarity. Your relationship with pain was the final straw, the thing that made the vote unanimous. beyond debate. They realized you don't avoid pain, don't run from suffering, don't treat discomfort as something to be eliminated. You've developed this relationship with pain, where you almost welcome it, where you see it as information, as teacher, as fuel. You're not a masochist. You're not self-destructive. You've just understood something they desperately don't want others to understand. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the forge, and you've been using it to become steel. They can't control people who've made peace with suffering, because suffering is their primary tool of control. Let me tell you what happened after the vote, after they all agreed hell no, after they sealed the decision with signatures and oaths. They implemented a protocol, a systematic effort to keep you distracted, to keep you focused on surface-level problems, to keep you thinking small. Every time you started asking big questions, they'd send a crisis, a relationship, drama, a financial emergency, something to pull your attention back down. Every time you started connecting dots, they'd introduce chaos, another betrayal, another loss, another reason to focus on surviving instead of thriving. This wasn't coincidence. This was strategy. This was the unanimous vote in action. They assigned people to your life. I'm not being paranoid. I'm being accurate. Certain people were placed in your proximity, specifically to monitor your evolution, to report back, to test your reactions. Not everyone, obviously. Not most people, but enough. Enough to create a network of observation. Enough to make sure you never got too far ahead without them knowing. Some of these people cared about you genuinely, but they were also reporting information, passing along insights, feeding the system that needed to track you. And you felt it, didn't you? Felt the artificiality, felt the performance, felt like you were in a reality show where everyone knew the script except you.